Okay, I think this thing is recording, and let's roll with it for a minute here. So, I want to talk a little bit tonight about UFO kind of stuff. Woo! Yeah, right? Um, First off, let's talk about an unwise flying object. Okay? There's this guy, it's been going around on Facebook, probably for 6 months to a year now. He's a flat earther. And he's an amateur rocket scientist. So he's been wanting to blast himself off into space. Well, according to Vice.com, motherboard.vice.com, he did it. He blasted off in his own homemade rocket. Well, he at least proved the theory of gravity. He made it up to, if I remember the figure right, it was 1,850 feet or something along those lines at about 350 miles an hour, which, as anybody who follows space science knows, it's nowhere close to orbital velocity or going to get into the stratosphere or anything like that. So, luckily, he was a pretty good rocket engineer because he was able to parachute back down. And he's a little banged up, but otherwise not seriously injured, which is kind of a minor miracle. But let's talk about 1,850 feet. Okay. If I have that figure correct, I worked for years in downtown Chicago. My office was actually 2 blocks away from the Sears Tower. Now, some British consortium bought it a few years back and renamed it the Willis Tower. But yeah, to me, it'll always be the Sears Tower. It just is. And that's what most people know it by. But it's that like super tall one down in downtown Chicago with the 2 big white antennas on top. No, not the John Hancock. That's over by the lake. The Sears Tower, the square one, not the kind of cheese grater looking one. That thing is 1,300 and some odd feet tall. And I worked 2 blocks from it for 19 years. So I have a pretty good idea of how tall 1,300 feet is. So you add another 500 feet on, that's maybe like another third the height of the building, which is nowhere near close enough to get a real view that would tell you if the Earth was actually flat or round like a ball. Not even close. But Mr. Brilliant managed to get the rocket launched with himself inside of it and managed to live through the experience. Well, guess what he's going to do now? I think he's planning on a run for the governor of California. Yeah, I think that's what's up. All right, moving on. I posed the question in our online forum, our Facebook discussion forum yesterday, I think it was, whether or not anyone had ever seen a UFO. So, okay, I have once. At least I think it was a UFO. And let me give you a visual here. My wife, Saren, and I are coming home. It's dark outside. We've only been in Temecula, California from the Chicago area for 1 week. This is our first week here. Now, it's a desert area out here, and we're real close to Camp Pendleton. It's just over the mountain from us, which is like maybe 7 miles, 8 miles away as the crow flies. Of course, the crow would have to fly up and then back down. But anyway, so we're walking up to our front porch after a night dinner out. We get up to the front porch, and Yeah, being stuck in Chicago all those years, I love to look up at the stars at night, and there's not that many to see in Chicago. There's a few more here. It's a little bit more like where I grew up in southern Wisconsin, um, and where I was nothing like where I was stationed in New Mexico. Now, the night skies there are incredible. You can actually see stars almost like our ancestors used to be able to before modern electric lighting, but here, at least you can see some, you know. And occasionally you'll see like a meteor flashing by overhead, that kind of stuff. Of course, you see aircraft in the sky. Now, just so you know, I have a background in aircraft electronics. I was a radar tech in the Air Force, and I took aircraft electronics school for 2 years, 10 years later as a civilian for civil aviation. So I know what aircraft lights are supposed to look like, right? On an aircraft flying in U.S. airspace on a non-military, non-covert mission, all aircraft must have these lights. They must have at least one white strobe at the tail, and they also must have a red light on the left wing and a green light on the right wing. And actually, in aircraft terminology, it's like a ship because, airship. Okay. Left is port, red, and green is starboard, right. Okay. You can think port wine, left. Okay. And the red light is non-blinking solid on. The green light is non-blinking solid on. And the white strobe at the tail or on the belly, usually at the tail. That's standard aircraft lights. And if you look up and see aircraft flying overhead at night, you know it's an aircraft because that's the kind of lights it has. And it generally moves in a fairly straight line, just kind of right across the sky, or depending if it's a jet. Well, I looked up this night and I saw this thing flying from the horizon to the south to the horizon to the north, and it had no red light, no green light, no white strobe. What it had was two solid lights on either side. One was blue and the other one was T-Mobile electric purple. Electric blue on one side, electric purple on the other. I mean, literally T-Mobile purple. And you couldn't really see the body of the craft because it's dark. It's night. But I could really see were the lights. And this thing was flying more like a butterfly would fly or a fly would fly. Its general trajectory was from north to south, but meanwhile it's going like ziggy-zaggy all over the place. And the thing is utterly silent. Now, if I had to guess, I would say it was about 1,000 feet overhead, maybe 500 to 1,000. But I don't have a good sense of scale because, well, it's nighttime. It's not like it's on the ground or anything. It's up in the sky. It could have been a lot bigger and a lot higher, or it could have been a lot smaller and a lot lower. I suppose it's possible it could be a drone, but here's the thing about civilian drones. They usually have a 300 to 600 foot range, right? That once you get past that range, the civilian drones, they run out of radio range. You can't control them anymore. They also only have about a 15-minute battery. Well, this thing didn't take any 15 minutes to go all the way from the southern horizon to the northern horizon, which is pretty fast for a regular civilian drone. And it was utterly silent. which drones can be fairly quiet in flight. And as far as camera, video cam, the way that thing was flying, you'd probably get pretty seasick trying to watch any video that beast was shooting. So, to me, in my mind, knowing what I know about aviation in general, knowing what I know about civilian drones, because I read up on this stuff a lot, nah, it can't really be a civilian drone. It can't really be a standard aircraft, because no aircraft would fly like that. It would have to be some kind of helicopter, and even then it would have been making all kinds of racket. This thing was silent. So I can only think of one or two things. It either had to be an autonomous military drone of some sort, which, why would you put a lot of bright light like that? I mean, seriously, solid bright blue and T-Mobile purple lights on this drone. If it's military, you'd think they'd want it to be stealthy or clandestine, right? Especially if it's hush hush. The only other option is Lost in Space, E.T. phoning home, whatever. It's either got to be something military, like research craft, experimental, which again, why would you have the bright lights like that? To make it super visible. Or it's got to be ET. And there's no way it was a civilian drone. There's no way it was a standard civilian aircraft. That's not your typical military aircraft, because they just don't do that kind of zigzag flying around in circles. I mean, literally like a butterfly or a fly would. Kind of doing lateral loops in the sky and, zigging this way, zigging that way, but overall one general direction. I mean, the closest thing I can think of is a butterfly in flight. If you ever watch a butterfly flying, that's what it looked like in flight, except for way up overhead, 500 to 1,000 feet at least, and all the way from horizon to horizon, which is way more range than a civilian drone would have. Military drones can have a lot more range, and they have some sort of connectivity, probably via satellite, so they wouldn't be out of radio control. But the flight pattern and the lighting don't make sense. So, there wasn't any missing time. It wasn't any kind of triangular hovering thing with lights on each corner of the triangle. So, no, it is either something military, something major big corporation or billionaire, or something extraterrestrial. So, it's not like an abduction thing. There was no saucer with a cow floating in a beam of light or anything like that. The thing just ziggy-zagged its way from south to north over our heads and was gone. That's it. And my wife saw it too, because the first thing I said was, "Honey, look at that." And she's like, "Oh boy. Where did we move to now?" So that's my UFO experience. I haven't had any others. Late night video shooting again. Sorry. Anyway, that's it for tonight, I think. But if you've got any UFO stories, love to hear them. And meanwhile, let's wish Rocket Man, Flat Earth Rocket Man, there a speedy recovery. Thankfully, he didn't Darwin himself. And but I don't think I'm going to be voting for him for governor out here in California. No. No way. All right, guys. Good night. Happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42. And thank you for listening.